David Johns is the Executive Director of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans. And that initiative is to build a continuum of support and services for students across the country and to see that they succeed. Prior to joining the department, Dr. Johns has worked with Senator Tom Harkin, Senator Ted Kennedy. He has been a member of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation as a fellow, and he's worked so closely with Charlie Rangel from New York. So he has seen it, he has done it, and he's here to bring us his message. Please welcome David Johns.
Good morning. The kindergarten teacher in me is resisting the urge to ask everybody to stand up and shake the sillies out. But we'll work through it. I want to say thank you to Scholastic for extending to me again this invitation. It's always good to be with you. I want to be clear, I'm going to leverage my time today really to frame some strategies, some lessons learned throughout my role serving as executive director of this initiative that was established by President Obama. But then I'm also going to leverage that invitation to allow you guys to hear from some students themselves. One of the things that I find interesting is that often when adults are looking to find ways to support students, we sometimes gather in rooms like this and remember what it was like when we were students. And we try and conjure up solutions that meet the needs that we think we might have had if we were students today. And so one of the things that we do at the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for African Americans, it is an exceptionally long title, but I refuse to let anybody shorten it, in part because, as we were talking about, and Thea mentioned, assets are important, right? And seldom do we get to hear those words strung together, so you'll hear me say it a lot today. But one of the things that we do and we think is exceptionally important is to provide a platform for experts to be able to speak their own truth to power. And so we have a partnership, our initiative with Johnson Publishing Company, Ebony Magazine, where we've traveled to some 13 different states to produce summits where the experts are students, where they get to make recommendations for the things that caring and concerned adults need to do so they feel safe, engaged, and supported. And so we'll do a little bit of that here today, and also want to let you know that there's a toolkit that's now available as of October 1st on our website to assist you in hosting a teach-in. So you too can provide platforms for students or parents or family members to be able to speak their truth to power. Before I show this video, just to frame again my remarks, I want to share that we are the newest of 6 initiatives that are sponsored by the White House, the oldest of which is the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities, established under Carter. There is a White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanics, which celebrates 25 years this year. Another initiative on educational excellence for Asian American and Pacific Islanders. Another focused on educational excellence for Native Alaskans, Native Americans, and Native Hawaiians. And then one also focused on supporting neighborhood and faith-based partnerships. And so know that in addition to my office, there are 5 others that are looking to support the work you're doing in your communities throughout the country. And so this is a quote that I often share, which is from Asa Hilliard, and I've amended it a little bit to say I have never met, in particular, a Black child who is not a genius. Asa goes on to say, appreciate that, Asa goes on to say that there's no secret to how you support them. The first thing you do is acknowledge them as humans, and the second thing you do is to treat them with love.
Because of the 3 doctors, we can be our brother's keeper, stay focused, and work to succeed together.
If you ever need something to make you smile, go to becauseofthem.com. This is a campaign that features our babies and the images that we sometimes only celebrate during watershed months like Black History Month. And some of you have seen me walking around with a backpack that has the same words and then the names of some of these people that we all should celebrate. But I like to start with this because it's really important for us to remember that all of our children are born with untapped potential. Every single one of them. I have yet to meet a child that asked to be here or who simply did not want to figure out their way in the world. And we owe it to them to ensure that we show up for each of our children and provide intentional supports that are designed to ensure that they grow cognitively, socially, and emotionally. And I know that all of you know this, right? We're having a conversation with the congregation, but there are some specific opportunities for us to ensure that all of our children, in particular African American and Latino children, are able to realize their full potential. See, the sad reality is that the President and the First Lady have acknowledged this on a couple of occasions. In too many communities throughout this country, a child's access to opportunity is predicted by code, genetic code or zip code. You give me a map, tell me a little bit about a child's family, and by and large, we can tell you whether or not they will have access to opportunity. And we are simply too smart and have innovated for too long in this country to continue to exist with that being the reality. So a couple of things that I want you guys to answer and to take back with you, right, as we think about the fact that there are no late people in this work. Each of you know that, right? It's how it is that we can stand up in the lives of our young people. So one, when is the last time you read to or created a story with the child? If the answer is longer than a week, that's too long. Something we can do every day, right? Ask the same thing of your teachers, your school leaders, faith leaders, individuals you know who interact with students. Ask them when's the last time they've engaged in that kind of an activity. When's the last time you took a young person to work with you? To allow them to see the things that you were excited about or passionate about or otherwise spend your energy engaging in. This last one is specific to the passion, but more specifically, when's the last time you took a child to your college or university? It's homecoming season. I know some people go back annually, right? When's the last time you took a child or a young person into that space? Right? Think about the moments in which you have had that light spark and how somebody was able to show up for you in a specific way. A couple of students that I just want to highlight, and then we're going to again hear from some more of them. Thessalonica graduated from high school with a college degree at the same time, at 16 years of age. At a point in time in which, yep, give her a round of applause, she deserved it. At a point in time in which most students find the work easy, they're bored, they start talking, get into trouble, her mother enrolled her in a community college and allowed her to channel her energy in some productive ways. Mosiah Bridges is in high school right now making money. He runs a company called Mo's Bows. He's one of the most sartorially sophisticated young men I've ever met, right? Aside from being brilliant and beautiful and black, Mosiah is a STEM engineer. Mosiah is powerful because if you go to some communities in this country and ask students to think about a STEM professional, they will draw a blank. Why? Because they are trying to conjure up an image of a white man in a lab coat doing bench work. It's important for us to broaden the scope and help our babies understand the ways in which they are already moving in really powerful ways to affect change in their communities and throughout the world. Michaela is one of the youngest entrepreneurs in Texas. She owns a company called Be Sweet Lemonade, one of the youngest people ever to be carried in Whole Foods in Texas. I was just in Dallas on Friday. My family's from Austin. Won't say any more about it. It's a powerful thing to be able to walk through Whole Foods and see this beautiful baby's face hanging from the rafters, right? And not just for kids who look like her, but for kids who need to see her, to see the diversity that exists throughout this country, right? She uses her grandmother's flaxseed oil recipe to make this. And she also gives a portion of her proceeds to donate to conserving bees, right? Beautiful, brilliant babies. But the sad reality is that not all of us see our babies with the potential that I just displayed. Sometimes, specifically in the case of African American and Latino children, they are perceived as being problems before they're ever acknowledged as being people, and that is a shame. The First Lady of the United States hosted a screening of a film called The Inevitable Defeat of Mr. and Pete. It's a Lionsgate film starring Jennifer Hudson and Jeffrey Wright, but the star of the film is a little man named Mr., who, when you meet him in the first 5 minutes of the film, his teacher says that he's not smart enough to go to the next grade. Then Mr. is left to his own devices because his mother, who's a drug-addicted prostitute, gets arrested. And he has to fend for himself in the projects of New York. And one of the most powerful scenes in the film is when Mr.'s in the back of what looks like a social services car, and he breaks down and cries for the first time ever. And this is after having to negotiate to get food, to be able to literally fend for himself. He breaks down and says, I don't know if I can do this on my own. And the man in the car turns to him and says, none of us are supposed to. Except there are babies who woke up today questioning if there is an adult in their life who is not only going to acknowledge and value them, but love them through the mistakes that we all make. We owe it to each of our babies to show up and to find ways to support the adults in their lives so that they can help them to live their full potential. This is a picture from one of our summits at Morehouse College, where again, we provide a platform for young people so that we can ask them directly, what do you need so you feel safe, so you are engaged, and you are supported in school and in life? If you ask one question, let it be that. What do you need so you feel and are safe, engaged, and supported? A couple other lessons that have been learned hosting these summits and doing this work. Again, I know we're having a conversation with the congregation, so we're just going to repeat some things that are worthy of being repeated. One, learning starts at birth, and the preparation for learning starts well before birth. The work must start in utero to ensure that we take advantage of the time upon which the foundation upon which all future learning and development is being formed. How are you thinking about creative partnerships with faith leaders and community-based organizations that interact with mothers as they're expecting? How are you working with fathers and groups that support men and boys to ensure that they are able to develop relationships before their child is ever born? It has to start early. The second thing, you all know this, we're at a Scholastic conference, there are books everywhere. Literacy matters in all forms. Not just the ability to read a book and to fall in love with literacy, but to be able to read a script and understand what your doctor's saying about your health. Or to be able to manage a checkbook, right? Particularly in the African American community, if you show me a child who has not yet fallen in love with literacy, I can point to an adult in their life who struggles with literacy as well. We have to have more conversations about intergenerational literacy and move beyond the shame that sometimes comes with not wanting to say that somebody in our family can't read. I think this is exceptionally important in the African American community when we acknowledge that we come from and we're descendants of people who risk their lives to learn to read and write by candlelight and moonlight. So if I can read, everybody I know should be able to read too. We need to leverage all tools to support educational excellence. This is especially critical when we think about STEM or STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, the arts or agriculture, and mathematics. I know a lot of people want to talk about STEM without the A, but if you talk to most kids, particularly kids of color, you ask them what they want to be, what do they say? An athlete or an entertainer. It's really no surprise, right, when you think about the fact that some of the highest rated television shows are things like Dancing with the Stars, right? But we have to, again, leverage technology and tools to ensure that our babies can move full steam ahead. Words matter. We have to mind what we say. There's power in precision. One of the things that's most impactful at our summits is that kids remember vividly, I think some of you might, the moments in which an adult said, you can't, you won't, you should not. Powerful, right? And some of our babies use that as fuel to compel them while others allow it to suffocate their dreams. We have to move beyond saying things like math was hard or that's going to be too tough for you. And remember that words have power. We have to mind what we say. This is village work. Again, there are no lay people in this. Karen Mapp, wonderful woman. I don't know if she's in the room. If anybody has not taken our session on the dual capacity framework, please do so. There are 2 additional resources that have been provided by the Department of Education to support meaningful parent-family engagement. The link is here. They're also on the materials on your table. But one is a set of rights, which says that all parents should be able to expect, at a minimum, 3 things. 1, high-quality early care and education programs. 2, meaningful K-12 experiences or pre-K-12 experiences, to be more accurate, that ensure that their children are able to graduate and be successful in a college or a career. That means without the need for remediation, right? The ability to get a job that has at a minimum family-sustaining wages and opportunities for advancement, and an affordable post-secondary opportunity. To supplement that, there are a list of questions that parents and families should be able to ask and expect answers to ensure that those 3 promises are made real. I encourage you to download those resources, to share them with your parents, your families, and your community-based organizations, and ensure that people not only are able to ask the questions, but receive the answers that they need. The last thing is that we need to listen to the babies. Anybody who follows me on social media has seen me use the hashtag #TeachTheBabies. It is a plea, a beseechment, a request for us to see all of our children in the way that we sometimes see and revere our babies. And again, one of the ways we do that is through our summits. I encourage you all to download the toolkit. I'm going to invite up some experts to add some color into this conversation. Please give these brilliant scholars a round of applause. Let's take a seat. I got my all-star team with me. Usually, I have this video with Marquise, who gave testimony at Ferguson, just to get to illustrate how brilliant our young people are. I'm going to show this film, and then we're going to have this conversation. This is one of your classmates. I met this young man when I visited Miami Northwest High School 2 years ago. And when I met this young man, let me play the video, then I'll tell the story.
Hydroponics is hydroponics, which is physically grown by the ammonia of the fish. Nitrite, which turns into nitrate, and that is good for the fishes. It's good for the fish and the plants. And the reason why our water is green because of the algae, so we leave it green like this until it filters out. And the good thing about this system is it's a closed system, so all we have to do is feed it.
So a couple of things. One, I had no idea what aquaponics was when he said it. I had to Google it, so don't feel bad if you don't either. But 2, and Barrington spoke about this yesterday, this school is located behind a project that is most notable for producing the rapper Trick Daddy and Trina, and for producing a significant number of young men who go on to play football. And so when I met this young man, he probably is 5'7". If I dunked him in that tank, he might be 90 pounds soaking wet. He said that he wanted to play football, right? No surprise, because football is the way out, literally and figuratively, right? There are some schools in and around Miami where colleges recruit. There are signs right above where the students play, right? But because of a creative partnership between Florida International University and JP Morgan Chase, this young man has acquired a skill set that literally allowed him to turn a food forest into a food desert. Right behind this tank, which is producing crops that don't exist in this community, they turned part of the football field into a farm. He literally has an understanding of agriculture that is transferable around the world. Again, an example of what happens when we move past the perceptions that we sometimes have of our babies and give them the skills that they need in order to change the world. So I'm going to ask my all-star panel to introduce themselves. They're going to tell you their name, where they're going to school, and what they're passionate about. We're going to start here.
Hello, my name is Alexis Kaladiud. I'm a senior at Florida International University. I currently serve as the student government president of our South Campus, and I am exceptionally passionate about the opportunity higher education offers to low-income and minority students, and finding ways to be a voice and advocate now during my collegiate career, and then seeing how I can propel the conversation as a professional.
Give a round of applause. Sarah.
Hello, I am Sarah St. also currently a senior, well, I'm a senior at Miami Northwest Senior High School. I also serve as the Student Government Association president there. And I am extremely passionate about giving back to my community, taking what I gained from my experiences and giving back to the area that I grew up in, and that's basically it.
Give her a round of applause.
My name is Keno Tate. I'm also a senior at Miami Northwestern Senior High School. I'm the president of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence project. What I'm passionate about is helping my community and helping others in my community also succeed, because like he said, in my community, football is the only way out, and I want others to know that it is a different way out.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Angelo Babel. I'm also a senior at Miami Northwestern Senior High School, and I serve as the vice president of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence. I'm very passionate about sports, and I'm very passionate of being I'm very passionate of letting people know that there's more than one way to do something, or there's more than one way to be great. I really just want to show all the young people that look up to me that you don't necessarily need a sport. If you apply yourself to something, you can really be great in life.
Angelo Aquino, talk a little bit about the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence program. We cannot find ourselves in Florida and not say thank you to Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, but will you talk a little bit about the program?
All right, so the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence project is funded by Congresswoman Frederica S. Wilson. Recently, we went to Washington, D.C. to take part in the My Brother's Keeper initiative with President Barack Obama. There, we learned communication skills and different things to help us be leaders in our communities, and different tools to help one another succeed. So, we took 24 boys from Northwestern, and we use those tools in school to help each other and succeed. Since we learned the tools in Washington, we haven't stopped using them. Since we came back, we check on one another and make sure one another, doing different things to make sure we stay on one accord and stay on the carefully charted path. Angelo?
Basically, I don't like to say we're a program. I like to say we're a brotherhood. We all get along. We all look after each other. Every day in school, there's just no, hey, we went to Washington together. I'm not worried about you anymore. No, we still keep in contact with each other. We're actually in a group chat, so every morning it's a good morning, or we see each other, so we barely get any time away from each other.
Positive accountability.
But it's just really great to be a part of the program. I learned a lot personally, and I learned a lot of how to communicate and how to get along with people, even though you may not know them, how to broaden my horizons and lowering my expectations of the people I meet, not necessarily holding a high standard where I would just tone someone away. I can open my arms up and open my mind up to be a better person.
Angelo, let's start with you and work our way down. Finish the following prompt. The best thing about being young, gifted, and Black is?
The best thing about being young, gifted, and Black is the world is mine, and I have all the time to make what I want of myself.
Same question to you. Same question to you. Same question to you.
Is that no one knows what I have and what I'm capable of, because it's so unexpected for me to be Black and gifted. Can you say the prompt again one more time?
The best thing about being young, gifted, and Black. We need to have Nina sing it, right? Young, gifted, and Black is?
The power that I hold, and that I know what I'm holding, and I just got to be great.
Awesome, thank you. Sarah?
The best thing about being young, gifted, and Black is that I am the unexpected. No one expects that as I walk into the room that I will, speak intellectually, or that I would hold the capacity of knowing, having the knowledge capacity. So being Black and having the gifted aspect to it is just it surprises people. So that's the best thing about being young.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You say it in the way you need to say it. All right. Alexis, the best thing about being young, gifted, and Latina is?
I think the opportunity to be a role model for others. When I look around, I think we were saying entertainment and athletics.
Yep.
When I look around, I don't necessarily see a role model for myself. So I never thought about it that way. I never thought that I was actually looking up to professional white men in some occasions, that there was no one like me. And I think that's an exciting adventure for me to be a part of, because someone can look at me one day maybe and say, I want to be like Alexis. It's cool.
I'm sure there's somebody who's watching now who said that. I want to sit in this space and unpack two things, sort of a thread through what each of you mentioned. And one is that while we now celebrate popularly the idea that students are displaying grit and resilience, it comes with a cost, right? There is a literal and figurative price that is paid by these students moving through spaces where they are disrupting myths, where they're supplanting negative perceptions, and literally trying to change the way that the world sees them. And so I want us to be conscious of that as we continue to celebrate and support our babies, right? So that's one. And then the second is the importance of mentorship, right? It matters in all forms. It was talked about a lot yesterday with Barrington and his students in the ways that not only did he mentor them, but they're now mentoring him. But so much of ensuring that our babies are able to see themselves as powerful as they are is having someone who's able to show them the steps that they need to take. So what's the one thing that you would recommend to all of these experts, again, professionals who are engaged in the business of supporting young people like you? What's the one thing that you would ask for them to do so that students and families are better supported and engaged in the work of education?
I would definitely recommend, like, maybe once a month we have like a student teacher parent breakfast where all parents come out with the students and they interact with the teachers and get to know the school so they can be better acquainted with their students' surroundings.
Write it down. Did you tweet it? Tweet it, share it with people. Okay.
I would recommend changing the people and not trying to change the institution or like a building around the student, because you can make something, like you can make a building, give students all the tools for learning and everything, but if you have a teacher that's not physically trying to help the student and loving the student and giving the student time, it's not going to work. So you can give a student the best computer or the best textbook ever, but once a student has love and knows that the student is being loved and that is someone there that cares for them, it'll be a different turnout. So change the people.
Before you go, Sarah, so what's significant about this is that you tell him how old you are?
I'm 17.
He's 17, and is at the point in his life where most people assume that the last thing he wants is love, right? And the one recommendation he offered is to ensure that the adults around him show up with love. We cannot overstate how important that is and how easy it is for them to identify when somebody's faking it, right? Unpack that a little bit. Talk to them about what love looks like from caring and concerned adults.
All right, can I use my mom?
Of course, boy. as a card carrying member of the Mama's Boys Club, you better do it.
All right, my mom.
Start with mom, but then also give an example from school. It could even be the 5,000.
Okay. My mom, for instance, like my mom, she has her own method of love. She has like tough love, and she has tough love. So I played football in 9th grade, and I tore my ACL. And then that's when I was like, well, hey, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. And she was like, you know what you're gonna do. Like, you better find something to do. And she makes me succeed. Like, I don't have a choice. So she shows me that love, but it's that love like, you better not slack off love. Like, you gotta stay on point love. Like, that tough love. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that type of love. So that's the love I get from my mom.
So educators, it is okay to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
As long as you do it with love.
And from a school standpoint,
Mr. Anderson.
you can use Mr. Anderson, because he's right there. But from a school standpoint, my principal has like a lot of love for his students, and I believe we can all attest to that. Like he make his teachers love the students. Like he has an open door policy. You can come and talk to him about anything. If you're struggling in a class or struggling even in PE, you could come and talk to him, and he will show you that love and show you that like you could make it through it. Like you don't have to like be in the position that you're in. And that in our school, we have a lot of kids that's in tough positions. So in school, like he loves you and he tell you that he loves you with no problem. And it's not the fake love. It's genuine. So and from it coming from him, it just goes down the chain, from the teachers to the lunch ladies, everything. Everybody has love. So that's it. From school.
So shout out to Principal Aristide who allowed them to be here today. For those who have the time, please stop by, visit, tell him we said we love you. But he is one of two brothers, literal and figurative, who's the principal of a high school in Miami. So Principal Aristide is at Miami Northwestern, and his blood brother, is also a principal at Booker T. Washington High School. And the young man whose picture I showed you with the aquaponics system was actually shot earlier in the school year on the way to school that year. Right, and so to be clear, when he talks about tough positions, it's literal and figurative. But these babies show up in spite of the challenges that exist around them because there are adults who show up with love. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get Sarah?
Yeah, about self-love.
Yep.
Mr. Anderson, let me tell you about Mr. Anderson. My 10th grade year, I met Mr. Anderson, like, personally. I was in his class. I wasn't the strongest minded child, so any little thing I do, if I breathe wrong, hey, you better tighten up. He got me in he got me in the 5,000 role model of excellence, and ever since then, I've changed a little bit of everything about myself, the way I think, the way I treat people, the way I carry myself. I used to think wearing a suit and tie was like kind of lame. No offense, everybody.
It depends on how you wear it.
Yeah. But now I'm glad to wear it. I wear it proudly anytime. I smile a lot more often. I'm more happy with myself and who I'm becoming as a person, thanks to Mr. Anderson and everything he's done for me.
Stand up, Mr. Anderson.
He's funny. He's doing kisses.
Love that. Sarah?
One of the things that I've noticed that if you do to like the kids in a younger generation, it will really have an effect on them when they grow up, is like extends them far beyond the 5 days of school we normally see them. Because I take part in a program called the Baby Boys Academy, and we go out like every other Saturday to read to these students and like actually show our love onto them. And what I've noticed is that actually taking the students from our school, like students like us, out into the community where young kids are growing up in, knowing that our community is not the best of places, it actually like reaches to them, and they know that they have a role model, they have someone to look up to, and they have a goal to reach. Like going far beyond to like show them that they have love wherever they go, like not only their teachers, not only the 5 days of school, not only the 8 hours of the day that they see them. It shows them that, yo, I have somewhere that I have to be, I have someone that loves me, and I have someone that's looking on to me that like shows and believes in me that I can possibly make it out of the hood that I've grown in. So I've noticed that like showing love from a younger age actually has an effect on them, and it shows that I have love from a higher being and a role model.
So one, I appreciate, give her, yep. I love your code switching. Some of y'all caught the yo when she was talking about it, right? Multiple intelligences. So honoring all that you said, what's the ask that you have of them? What's the thing you want them to do based on that, or to help make that more real for more?
I ask that as, you know, role models in our community, I ask that you reach out to the younger generation, reach out far beyond the 5 days of the week you see them. Actually enforce like the Saturday programs for them, that they can come from their home and actually have someone that actually literally reads on them one-on-one, actually shows love to them one-on-one, because that one-on-one love actually like sticks with them. It actually shows that they have someone that loves them. So that one.
Awesome. Thank you. Alexis, your recommendation?
I think it's twofold. The first piece is engaging students in high school with students in college, connecting the dots so it seems less distant, and it seems like less of a stretch for the student to imagine themselves. I've sat down in conversations where we're talking about how do we help students transition into FIU, and how do we help them become successful when they're here? That's the national question. How do we help students graduate? But one of the biggest pieces is they don't feel like they belong there. And if they feel that while they're in college, how many students didn't even take that step because they really feel like they didn't belong there, because they didn't see themselves there. They have no connection to that. That's one recommendation. My other recommendation is from my own life experience. So I'm a middle child. My brother's 24, I'm 21. My little brother's 14. My little brother just started 9th grade this year, and my parents have now gotten to the point where they said, okay, well, my older brother got no scholarships. He went to a state college, and now he's at FIU with me. I attended a university directly, and my little brother is saying, how can we take every advantage of every opportunity that's open to you? How can we integrate? And I guess this is the question of this conference. How do we integrate that conversation early so those first couple children, if the parents are at that level of engagement, the first couple children get whatever happens to them, and the last child gets the best in strategic planning for their future. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, girl. You better speak to them. And I also appreciate the recommendation, because you might recall that one of the things that I asked you was, when have you taken a student to school with you, right? And so two things that often come up are, one, again, acknowledging the power of precision. The message should be that our babies are expected to graduate from college, not to go, not to attend, not to show up, not to register, not to go to homecoming, but to graduate. Right? And that's a conversation that we must start early. And so one recommendation that we've offered before is, especially for men, brothers who may or may not have a positive relationship with the woman who's carrying their child, is to start reading, to record themselves reading, right, while the baby's in utero. And then sending the tape to the mom and asking the mom to play the tape while the baby's in utero, so that two things happen. One, the man develops a relationship with that child before he sees the child as somebody who's just asking for checks, right? And two, the baby develops a relationship hearing the father's voice in utero that will continue to grow as that relationship enhances, right? So again, the point here to underscore what Alexa said is that we have to start early, right? With all of this, with exposing babies to STEM, with talking to them about the ability for them to go to college, and in leveraging the strategy that exists in other places, so that all of our kids feel like and enjoy the full resources that are available to them. Let's take a couple of questions from the audience. I'll do a little Oprah routine. I know there's some questions. If not, I have more. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. And first of all, I want to say congratulations to all of you for living a tremendous life and being role models for your siblings and also the young people around you. And so basically this question can be for anyone. I would like for you to tell us how, I know some of you have spoke on some changes that you have made in your own lives after attending the conference. Can you tell us how your family and or your classmates reacted to your change, and maybe some comments that they have said to you?
Angela, why don't you take that one?
All right. My mom, she's definitely happier, most definitely. I remember there'll be times like I'll stay out late and come in and just take a shower and go to sleep, not do any homework. Now I apply myself, I I use my time wisely. I value all of my words. I watch everything I say now in hopes that everything will be as intellectual as possible. All of my friends, I've actually lost a couple of friends because of my change. Some of them took the wrong path while I took the other route. And there's no hard feeling towards them, but I'm just thankful that I made the change before it was too late.
Alexis, why don't you comment on that as well, in particular acknowledging the transition from your community to college?
So my brother was actually the student that transitioned from community college to the university.
I meant your literal community.
Oh, my community.
Yeah.
For me, it was an interesting transition. I actually attended a private high school that my graduating class was 30 students. And when I transitioned into FIU, into a university of 55,000 students, that was an interesting experience. I was very alone and isolated. And for me, what the change was that propelled me into leadership, propelled me into opportunity, into making connections, into understanding myself and my passions in life was a professor who decided that he was going to pull me aside after class, almost every other class, and say, Alexis, what are you doing? What do you care about? What's your major? Why? And he directed me into almost every organization I'm a part of. He's the reason I'm on this stage. And the change that took place in my life because of a faculty member's intervention was that I had a sense of purpose and vision and questions about where I was going and why. I think the change happened in me that I was thinking now about people. I was thinking now about positions. I was thinking now about walking into rooms and saying, how can I fit in here? What is my role? That change has transformed my life.
One of my favorite things to do when visiting schools is to grab an educator or teacher or leader and ask them to describe 3 meaningful things about the first student that walks past, right? And I don't want to know what was discussed at the faculty meeting. I don't want to know what's on the roster. I want to know about that child. What books do they like? What music do they care about? What are they most passionate about, right? And it's also a way to sort of identify when folks have no real meaningful connections to their students, right? Which is what all of this is about.
I just want to say, before I ask my question, I am just like so enthralled and excited to see you young people up there on the stage conducting yourself in the manner that you are, so intelligent. I just applaud you.
But can I tell you something? While they deserve the applause, all of our babies do this.
Yeah.
Every last one of them. Even the ones that don't show up in the way in which we would expect them to in this space, right? So again, I implore you to honor that all of our babies are brilliant. And if you give them the platform, they'll show out.
I do have a question, though, that I am almost positive is like the $1 million question for every adult in this room. And hopefully you can answer it so that it can help us. What is it or what happened when you decided to transform your life and take a different path, as you mentioned? What was it? Was it something an adult said? Was it something they did? Was it something that a way it made you feel? What was it that made you listen?
Can it be that we were, well, for me...
Say what you about to say.
Can it be that I was afraid? I was afraid to go away from my parents and from my family, to go to jail or to be killed. I was afraid to lose my life and not let nothing come out of my life, because The two most important days in your life is the day that you was born and the day that you found out why you were born. And I felt like I wanted to live enough to find out why I was born, because I'm already born now. So now I have to find out why I was born. So that's what made my transition happen, along with my mom and that tough love I talked about. But that's what made it happen for me. So, yeah.
Wait, there's a gentleman here I want to come to, but I want Angela to respond as well because she used your language about transition. I also want to posit that our babies start out in that space, right? They start out simply, right? Anybody, I taught kindergarten, right? And my baby showed up every day just wanted to learn, right? The point at which they are pushed away from that, are told that that's not what they're supposed to do, is all on us, right? I want to again push on the frame that they always show up in that space, and if they go by the wayside, it's because we failed to do something. But I want you to answer a question, and then we'll come to this gentleman here.
The thing that made me change was the music I started listening to. I started branching out from just basic violence and negativity to music that had purpose to it. Like, for example, I started listening to Lupe Fiasco in the 10th grade, and one of his quotes that inspired me was when he said, "Defeat samsara and achieve nirvana and brilliance." Samsara is a Buddhist
Say
theme
that again
for
slowly.
defeat samsara, achieve nirvana and brilliance. Samsara is a Buddhist quote. It basically means a cycle of life and death and all the negativity in between it. So it basically made me feel like I can be more than just an example of what the hood pushes out, or just an example of being black makes you negative in the world. And nirvana is just self-purity as a human being. And once I heard that and I started listening to him and hearing everything else he had to say, I was inspired to be as intellectual, as motivating, and as cooperative to everyone as I can.
I don't want a single. So my ask, based on what he just demonstrated, is that you never again tell a child not to listen to music. Right? Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that you should take it away from them. Right? We talked again about leveraging every tool that we have, and he just demonstrated how the power of music can affect us in positive ways.
I, like everyone else, applaud and know that we have brilliant young men and young women every city across the country. One of the things that we're really pushing on in Omaha is African-American young men coming together to support each other to go to the next level. You touched on it, but I'd love to hear more about that chat and what else you do to support each other to keep going to the next level. What are the other things that you're doing, and how important is it for you to have a cohort or a group of guys that's with you?
All right, to keep in, to support each other, every day, we see each other, hey man, I like those shoes, or hey, you look good, or just funny stuff, just crack a joke every now and then, just let them know that we care, we're still here for each other. We link up every Wednesday after school with Mr. Anderson, even though he scheduled meetings at outrageous times. We come together, we have fun. Just recently, we went to the Dolphins game together, just to keep in contact with each other, even if it's just maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds. That effect of knowing someone's there, it means a lot to someone.
So they mentioned this, but the program was acknowledged at the White House when the president launched the My Brother's Keeper initiative, which was launched in part to do three things. One, call our attention to the fact that on most quality of life indicator ladders, boys and men of color are at the lowest rungs. Two, to highlight organizations like the 5000s Project who are doing the work of intentionally supporting and cultivating boys and men of color. And then three, compelling people to connect with those organizations and individuals, primarily through mentorship. One of the things that has come up, though, as we continue to have that conversation, is that our sisters are being lost, right? So the national story is that girls generally are doing well, and that's true by and large for white women, and that our boys, black men and boys in particular, are struggling. But what often gets lost is that black and Latino women are also being pushed out of the very spaces in which they need to feel protected and have access to these skills. And so for every one white male student who's suspended or expelled, there are 3 black boys who are suspended and expelled, but there are 6 black girls who are suspended and expelled. Data that was highlighted by the NAACP LDF in a report called Barrier Breakers, and in particular in certain spaces like Atlanta, Georgia, which has the highest sex trafficking rate in our country, there are particular problems that we have to be sensitive to as it relates to our women and girls. So I know you didn't ask the question, but I'm going to ask Sarah or Alexis to also talk about what's important for young women, right, who are often struggling with multiple things, including being brilliant, being beautiful, and being bold.
Okay, so speaking on the girls that I know around me, normally they know that they are beautiful, but sometimes they need the extra person to tell them I am beautiful, and they also need someone to look up to, because normally they look at celebrities, they're like, oh, I want to be like Beyonce, or I want to be like Rihanna, but is that a reachable role model? They need someone that they can look up to and like, I want to be the next Michelle Obama, I want to be the next, congresswoman. They need to know that they can be something more than just somebody that people look at and say, oh, you're beautiful. They need to know, like, oh, you're smart. Oh, you have so much, like, you have knowledge in your brain and you have capacity that, fills you up. Because that's what my mom instilled into me. My mom, she wasn't born here. She was born in Haiti. So when she came here, she was like, you're a woman. You're growing up in the U.S. You have to know that you have something that no one else does. And that's the power to go beyond what people think of you. So I feel like women just need to know that they are more than what society tells them they are and what people label them as.
What's interesting is at Florida International University, we find at least 70% of our student leadership, our top student leadership, are women. And they're the most dedicated, passionate people in whatever their field is. What we find at the same time is nationally that these women don't continue in leadership roles, right? I think one of the biggest barriers for women, for Hispanic women, I can think, is the sense of this isn't necessarily my place. Other people haven't been here before me. What is my role model? To be fierce like Beyonce. What does that mean? There's a sense of lack of role model, and at the same time, I think within the Hispanic community, what is the role of a woman? What is the leadership ceiling, maybe, for some women? And either that comes from the home, and that question's brought up in the home, or it's something that it's a validation problem, or women necessarily don't have that sense of support and can chase it in other ways. Like Mrs. Obama said, don't be looking for a guy, be focusing on your education. I think that message is very important, and a sense of support and validation for women with their intelligence, with their ability to affect positive change is incredible. What we've seen at FIU is when we do empower those women, they elevate whatever organization they're a part of in a huge way.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm an educator, very proud to serve in the beautiful city of Compton. And I would like to add, oh, thank you. Yeah.
I'm from Inglewood.
Okay, I am too. Okay, we have to talk. I would like to honor you as being real models. Not just role models. To me, you are real, you're authentic, and you're reachable and touchable. And people can look at you and begin to replicate what you're already doing. I'm interested, as I sit here, to know how has spirituality or faith impacted you in your own personal influence, if at all?
I have a praying grandmother. My great grandma is the president of my family. Like, you could, that's it. Like, you could call her at any time of the night, whatever you're going through, and she will pray for you. Like, pray for you. Like, good old pray for you. So, I said, I'm active in church. Me and Mr. Anderson attend the same church. I love church, and I love God, and I believe in God. So spirituality has helped me a lot to overcome different things. Because when I lose at something or when something just doesn't go right for me, my mom let me know that what God has for you is for you.
That's it.
So I don't go out and try to chase the things that didn't happen. No, I don't give up. I keep on working towards it, but I don't let it beat me down because my mom has, like Sarah said, like her mom instilled things in her. And my mom and my grandmother and my grandfather, which is a pastor, he also instilled things in me that what God has for you is for you. So I'm just going to get what God has for me, and that's it.
Going off of what Tina said, growing up, my mother used to always make me put on all of my folders, all of my binders. She was like, make sure you put Philippians 4 verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. She told me to put that on my binder and folders because just in case you might forget that, or you can't do it, just make sure you close your binder and look at the front of it and say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that just gave me like uplifting spirits, like, just know that I can do everything. Just know I can do it. Everything's possible.
Definitely, like, spirit and faith is definitely affecting me. I really didn't have a choice. I'm going to church. I was going to church. At 7 in the morning, faithfully on Sunday, I'm in the church until 1 o'clock. There's no, Mom, I'm tired, or my leg hurt, or you can sit up in church, or you can take a nap on the way there. There's no if and or buts about it. I'm in church. It kept me on track, most definitely, because many Sundays I could have been out doing stuff I had no business doing. My pastor couldn't have been talking to me. He couldn't have been reading scriptures to me, keeping me after church, taking me out like, hey, come on, let's go play pool, or let's go shoot some basketball, or let's just stay in church and let me teach you how to preach, let me teach you how to read this and understand the Bible and the deeper meaning to it. So spirituality and faith, it definitely plays a major course on my life, because without it, I honestly be nothing.
I was also raised in the church, and in my high school and middle school years, I was probably in church 4 to 5 times a week. And at first, it was my parents kind of said, we're going to church these times. But at another point, I felt this huge sense of community there. And my understanding of leadership was built through my church, through a sense of servant leadership. What can I do? How can I help? And it was always instilled. They always say, "Oh, help with the chairs. You have a servant's heart." But honestly, I feel like so much of who I am as a person and why I care about people, the idea of loving people, as the main avenue in which you interact with them, is through the church.
What's one thing that each of you would like to change about your schools?
Just the perception people have of it. People think Northwestern, people died, it's a bad school. Or all we push out is athletes. There's actually students from our school that went to Ivy League schools, Division I colleges. They hold strong positions in the world and help make critical decisions that can definitely change the world. So I just want people to know that my school is just not about death or sports. It's about brilliance all around.
Going off of what he said, reading online, Miami Northwestern is part of a community called Liberty City. And I read online that it said that Liberty City is a place that if you go in, you won't come out. Well, at least in a body bag. So one thing that I really want to change about my school is that we have so much in it. We have so much knowledge capacity. We have so much talent that is overlooked sometimes because of the community we are in. I just feel like as students at Miami Northwest Senior High School, we stand as agents of change, and meaning that we are changing the stereotype and the statistics that are held on Northwestern. So I feel like we are, agents of change to change that, stereotype and statistic that they see on our school.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Sarah and Angelo, because that does play a big part in our lives every time. I said once, I was speaking on a panel before, and I said, they asked me what school I go to, and I was like, Northwestern, and the lady was like, Northwestern? I was like, yes, Miss Northwestern. And I said it with pride, and I was proud to say that I go to Northwestern. So what I would change is the way people view our school, because they think, nothing good comes out of Liberty City, and Like, we here to testify that something good comes out of the city.
I want you to get in on this, but I want to again underscore how important this is, especially in a Black Lives Matter era, where the perceptions of our babies and the communities that they come from sometimes have the result of putting them in places where they can be harmed. Right? We hosted a professional development summit leading into the Congressional Black Caucus's annual legislative conference, and one of the students talked about the fear gripping him. It literally being tough for him to walk to and from school thinking about what could happen to his Black body. And so we have to be especially mindful not only about how we are perceiving our babies, how we're talking about them, how we allow other people to talk about them, right? And honor that each of them have this power and potential. And this is especially important when we think about presentation, right? Their humanity should not be conditioned upon how they dress our peers, right? And we sometimes have these moments. There was a powerful one. I'm looking at Robin now. We were at the National Urban League Conference in Fort Lauderdale, and a young man who was maybe in the third grade got up with a three-piece suit and all the poise in the world and asked a question, and the face you just made right there was the face everybody made, right? Like, and Deer just loved him, right? Later, a 16-year-old brother got up, pants a little low, not as articulate, and nobody applauded, right? And we missed a couple of things. One, it shouldn't matter how they show up. The fact that the 16-year-old got up with his friends there laughing at him was worthy of applause. Two, he got up there and asked a question about what's required for me to be a leader, right? But what was most important in that space was to remind the adults that we owe our babies equal amounts of love and attention regardless of how they show up, right? So the tie, the belt, it's all nice, but what they receive shouldn't be conditioned upon that or how articulate they speak or whatever our politics of expectation are.
I think one thing that that is important to shift within my university, we're 85% minority university, majority minority institution, and the most important thing is that we think strategically on one-on-one, how are we helping students that come in that have decided, I'm gonna go to college, have made all the requirements, have met all this. How do we find the opportunity to connect them and say, what is your passion? How do you want to be a leader? The interaction I had with my professor, how that's a common experience in the university setting. And that every student has the opportunity to find who they are and express that through their field and be a change leader, be a change maker in whatever they choose to do.
Awesome. Raise your hand if you know what your passion is. Right, all of you are privileged people. I would ask that you ask every young person you encounter for the next week if they know what their passion is. Last question to each of you. What's the one piece of advice that you offer to your peers who are questioning the value or importance of education?
Education is definitely the foundation for a better life. I tell them, like, when they get into high school, like, for example, my little cousin, he's a freshman. He started messing up his first 9 weeks, so I broke down the example to him. I told him, high school is like a house. You have your 9th grade, the foundation, 10th grade, the frame, 11th, the ceiling, and your senior year, the windows to close everything up. If you start weak, the whole house is going to cave in. You start off strong, you'll take off strong, you'll have a good life. And ever since then, he's been on the honor roll, he's been on track, he joined the 5,000 role models, so I had that effect on him, and I'm proud of him.
Y'all make sure that when you steal his analogy, you give him credit for it.
One thing that I was told since elementary school is that since being in a community of Liberty City, they used to always tell me that education is your way out. And I'm not saying that I go by it all the time, but education is my way out. However, I want to come back to my community and share that with everyone else. Knowing that education is like the key to success and actually having the knowledge of something actually helps, because if I didn't know anything, then I would be in the real world without knowing anything. But I feel like education gives you that foundation, like he said, of knowing and having that something to fall back on when you get into the real world. So.
To touch on what Sarah and Angelo said again, really what Sarah said, education is key. And I have a little cousin that's in the 9th grade also. I let him know that education is key because my parents and my grandmothers and Mr. Anderson them told me that education is key from I was in elementary to now, and it never changed. The same key is the same key. Like, it never changed. So I tell my little cousin all the time, education is key. Either you're gonna take the key and open the door to your brighter future, or you're just gonna stand on the doorstep and be nothing. So that's what I tell my little cousin and my friends at school. So that's it.
What I've figured out now that I'm in college is the idea that education is the doors, the key, is the connector between what we really want to be when we grow up. When we think about, I want to have a nice life, I want to have a comfortable family, I want to be able to go on vacations with them, everything that's considered normal and wanted is through education. That's the only way we can really attain that. Unless we're that 1 in 1 million chance, it seems, at this point in time. And I feel like that's not something that students know. We look on Instagram, we watch TV, we go on the internet, and people live these lifestyles that don't seem in any way connected to education or to advancement or to hard work. And I think it's very difficult for some students to understand that graduating high school, graduating college is the connector. And I wonder how do we shift conversation in society? How do we shift conversation through media? How do we really make education mentally connect to a good life?
We do exactly this. We find ways to provide platforms to brilliant and beautiful babies who can speak full truth to power. And so I'm going to ask them to join me in saying thank you to each of you for demonstrating what I know so very well, which is that, again, if we provide you with the support and the love you need, you not only show up, but you show out. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Good. So we ended a few minutes early because they all need scholarships and jobs. So you guys go be received. Thank you again.